Okay, so in this extension, what we're going to do is we're going to add the ability for the user to type in some text and have that text pop up on the canvas. In a way you can think about this as having the user sign their artwork. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add some HTML. So in your file, scroll up. We're going to add an input so people can type in text and also a submit button. I recommend putting this inside of your div, your menu div, so that way it's styled up in the right hand corner and is out of the way, or in whichever corner you have your menu div. I'm going to put mine after my colors. So to get started, we'll use the input tag. We're going to give this input a couple of attributes. Type tells the browser what type of input, and this is going to be a text input. ID, we're going to set to my name. Name, we are going to set to artist. And placeholder. Placeholder is going to display some light gray text in the box, and it will give the user some instructions about what they should be typing in this input. So I'm going to say enter your name as the value of that attribute. You just need to add a closing input tag, save your work, refresh, and we can see our inputs right here. However, nothing will happen with any of the text that we've put in there yet. The next thing we need to do is add a submit button. So right under my input tag, I'm going to add a button tag. I'm going to give it an ID of name, and we'll use this ID later to add an event listener to this button. Close the opening button tag. I'm going to type the word submit between the opening and closing button tags so that it displays the word submit. Let's refresh the page after we save our work. We have both our button and our input. The next thing we're going to do is very similar to the way that we declared variables to save us some time when we were getting different elements like our menu and our clear and save button and our canvas. We're going to do the same thing for our new submit button. So declare a new variable that's going to get this element, and it's just going to be some shorthand. So let's call this button name, since it's going to input the name on the canvas, equals document.get element by ID. The ID of our button, if you scroll back up, is going to be name. So that's what's going to go between these quotes. And then you need a semicolon. Save that progress. The next thing we're going to do is further down in our JavaScript, we're going to add an event listener for this button with the ID of name. And then we will take what is typed inside the input box and display it on the canvas. So I'm going to add this right before my closing script tag after all my other functions in JavaScript. Again, to add an event listener, you're going to use the element, which we said was button name, and add an event listener. We're listening for a click event, and then we will call a function. Let's name that function add name. We don't need to pass any parameters to the function, but we do need empty parentheses. Then you need your curly brackets. You can hit enter. You should have a closing curly, a closing parenthesis, and add a closing semicolon. And now all of our other code is going to go inside of this function. The first thing we need to do is we need to actually get the value of what the user types in our input box. So we can do that by declaring a variable that gets this value. So var, and we'll name this artist name, and then set it to document.get element by ID. Let's double check what our ID is. The ID for the input is my name, capital N. And then we actually want to say dot value. So document get element by ID, my name, dot value, semicolon. And that's going to get the value of whatever we have just typed into the input when this function is called. The next thing that we'll do are use some Canvas, built-in Canvas functionality to set the font and style of our text, and then to actually have it display the text on the canvas. So CTX, which stands for the context of our canvas, dot font equals, I'm going to set mine to 15 pixels in Arial, you can look online for other options when you are setting the font values. There's a link to the W3 Schools reference for Canvas included in the instructions for this part. The next thing we'll do is set the fill style. So ctx.fill style equals, I'm just going to set it to red, but you can set it to any hex or RGBA value that you want. This is just a little bit easier for me. And then the last thing that we're going to do is actually have it display this text on the canvas. So ctx.fill text parenthesis. Now we're going to put this variable artist name that gets our value that we've typed into this input. That's going to be the text that's displayed. Then we're going to tell it which X and Y location to display this text. Since I want it to be in the bottom right hand corner, the easiest way to do this, if I want it to be in that place no matter what size the canvas is to use canvas width and height and then subtract some pixel values so that it shows up in that corner. So for my X value, I'm going to say canvas.width. That'll take it all the way over to the far right edge. I don't want it to be that far over, so I'm going to say minus 150. And then canvas.height for my Y value. And that's going to take it all the way to the bottom, and I don't want it to be quite on the bottom, so I'm going to say minus 25. I need my semicolon, save, and then come back over here and refresh your page. And we can see that I have an error. So let's right click and inspect element. Okay, so I figured out that what I did was I did not include my comma after click. So make sure that you check your syntax. That's what debugging is for. All right, so let's test this out. I'm going to enter my name, press the submit button, and then it should show up in the corner. Awesome. So the reason it looks pretty high is I had the debugger open. So let's try it one more time. Press submit. And we can see it's in the bottom right hand corner. If you want to see what it looks like to move it around, you can also say 200 and say 100. Test it again. And that's moved it further up. So there's lots of things you can do to even make this extension your own. You can have it add different kinds of text. You can also have it add text in random places. And if you poke around W3 Schools, you'll be able to learn some ways to use random numbers so that you can make this pop up on a random location if that was something you're interested in. All right, have fun with this extension.